up? Now we have my friend and yours. We're going to bring on Miss Kristina. Hold tight, Kristina. Woohoo! There you are. Let me hear you talk. Come on. That's awesome. How are you doing, girl?
Great. How are you?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. It's a lovely day. I noticed it was about like 70 degrees, I think, today. And so it's like I'm wearing my tank top and, you know, it's like summer almost. Very cool. Well, I wanted to have you on tonight because not only are you a breast cancer survivor, but you're also a breast cancer kids ticket volunteer. So it's really cool when we have people who volunteer for breast cancer kids ticket that have a very personal bond to the cause like you do. And I love your story because everybody's story is so different. And so yours is an interesting one. You went a different path with a lot of things, but as we always do, I don't want to jump to the end too quickly here. But as we always do, if you don't mind, Kristina, take us through the story and how you found out that you had breast cancer.
Well, let me show you my shirt first. So the survivors can appreciate it. It says, "Heck yes, these are fake. My real ones tried to kill me." So I figured that was appropriate for today.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so awesome. Yes. That's killer.
You know,
that is awesome.
And we took care of that.
You took care of that. Yeah, totally. Well, tell everybody like...
So we're done, right?
Yeah, we're done. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining. We love your shirt and you have a good night. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. You're awesome. Yeah, dude. So take us back. It was about, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, right? That you found out you had breast cancer?
Close. So 4.5, actually.
Gotcha.
So it was April of 2016. I had gone into my gynecologist just for my annual visit. No big deal. Go in, do my, whatever we have to do as women. And he was doing the breast exam and found a lump on my right breast. So honestly, I didn't think anything about it. Quite frankly, my family has a history of breast cancer. My aunt, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother were all breast cancer, unfortunately. Some survivors, some not. But my sister, who is watching this broadcast, I saw, and I had done some genetic testing well beyond when it was kind of the thing to do. And we were tested negative. So when my doctor found a lump, I really didn't think anything about it, to be honest. I thought it was, let's drop the caffeine, let's do whatever we have to do. So I went in and did a mammogram. And because of my family's history, I have been doing mammograms since I was probably in my late 20s, at least by 30, every year. And I had done a mammogram probably 10 months prior to that. So I didn't even really question the lump, whatever it was, fine, I'll go in, let's get it looked at. So I had a mammogram done. And she was like, "Well, yeah, we do see something. So, sit here in the little waiting room with your little robe on, and I'm going to go and see what we need to do next."
That's never what you want to hear. It's like, hey, yeah, we found a little something. Just sit here and make yourself comfortable, right?
It's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's all good. I wanted to ask one question real quick. You said that you had been doing mammograms since you were in your 20s, and I guess that was because they considered you very high risk because of your family history. Were there any other reasons why, or was that just
that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And just for my sister and I to be very proactive.
Right.
And whether insurance paid for it or not, we were very aware of our history and just did it just to do it because that was the right thing to do, to be frank. So, you're in the waiting room, whether you've had mammograms or not, you're in that little robe and you're just kind of sitting there. And they finally called me back and said, "Yeah, we want to do a biopsy. We're going to do a little prick." Well, for those of you who've had the biopsy, it's not.
They actually said it was going to be a little prick, just a little biopsy.
Yeah.
So
of course, I'm by myself, right? Because I'm thinking this is no big deal.
Right.
So I guess I wasn't prepared for the sound or the clicking, when they pop it in your breast and that clicking sound because they're going to take the biopsy and leave a little clip.
Yeah.
Wow.
You're taking me back. Yeah. So just for those watching, it sounds like probably what you had was called a core needle biopsy. So they numb the area and they stick this thing in, and it basically takes a little chip out of the tumor, and then it comes out. And yeah, the sound, it's not really what you want to hear, and you don't, but it's a very quick process, thankfully, but you have to be awake for it, so since it's so quick.
Well, and I wasn't prepared for it, so I had no idea what was happening. And to make it worse, the gentleman who was in there doing the biopsy, he's like, "Oh yeah, oh it's spidering. Oh, that doesn't look good." And I'm like, "What?"
Are you kidding? No.
No, I'm not kidding.
Oh, it's the bedside manner is very important, people. It's very important. You got to concentrate. No.
Yes. Oh, I'm like, okay. Well, of course, by the time I leave, I'm in tears,
Right.
because I have no idea. I really went in with no expectations of anything other than, okay, it's going to be calcified. It's going to be, whatever, nothing. So, of course, then you wait for the call, right? Wait for your doctor to call, and they're going to tell you, what's the prognosis. So I go about my business. It takes about 2 days, I guess, to get the diagnosis. I'm working out at Orange Theory with my neighbor and some other girlfriends who I think are on this call or on the video. And I get the call, and when you see the doctor's phone number come up and you see the name, you're like, oh, that's not good. If they're calling you, it's probably not good. So I run out. And Orange Theory, by the way, has been a great supporter of breast cancer.
Oh yeah, just amazing. Thanks to you, by the way. Yeah, and that's thanks to you, Kristina. So thank you for that. Yeah.
I wish we could have done it this year, but next year we're going to get it teed up again. So anyway, the call came in. The doctor said, "Can you talk?" Well, of course you are. And he said, "I'm sorry to tell you, it came back as breast cancer." So of course, you're in shock. I mean, the women who are survivors on this call, you're like, no, this isn't happening. At the time, I was 47, good health, I checked all the boxes. I ate right, I exercised, I had a history, but my sister and I had done the genetic testing. So, I really did not think that was part of my what was going to be part of my life.
Yeah, exactly. And then to get that call in a where you're out and about, you're not at home, like your family's not around, and you're just kind of there. So what happened? Did you say you were in your car, like went outside to your car, and then did you just stay in your car? Did you go back? What did you do next? I mean, because I'm just like trying to imagine what that would be like.
I was in the gym. My neighbor happened to be with me at the time, and she could tell by my face, because I stepped out into the waiting area, that something wasn't right. And she knew I was waiting for the phone call, and she's a nurse, which kind of, helped a little bit. So she came out, and I said, "Oh my God, I have breast cancer." And just the first time I said it, you're just like, this is not reality. This is not happening. So I drove, she drove behind me. My other neighbor, who I think is on the Facebook as well, came out, immediately met me in the driveway, and we immediately just went to prayer. I was like, this is not happening. So, and then it starts. As everyone knows, it's just a roller coaster of doctor's appointments, of what do we do now, of decision making, of, who do we tell, who do we not tell? And
yeah, and
when you get that first phone call, you don't know where you're at in the stages to,
right.
Do other things.
Yeah, and it's an emotional roller coaster. It's a physical roller coaster. It's just like the stress of trying to keep track of all those doctor's appointments and which doctor does what and when you got to be where, and that's even before you get into chemo or medication or anything. So yeah, totally, yeah.
So, we start the process, right? So we start with the breast surgeons, we meet with the plastic surgeons, and, basically I ended up being a stage 1B, and I was estrogen positive. So as my breast surgeon had told me, that's the best breast cancer you can have, which, okay. So we ended up doing a double mastectomy with a flap, which I know some other survivors who've been on your call have done it. And I tell you, yes, it's a tummy tuck, but it's not the way you really want to do a tummy tuck with the breast. It's a 10 to 12 hour surgery. You're in the hospital for a week to make sure everything, heals and your body accepts the skin and the fat. but I figured 8 different procedures and surgeries over the course of about a year and a half because I decided to go ahead and do implants. So, by the time you do the whole process, it took about a year and a half, I suppose. But it's, go ahead.
So the flap that you described, I mean, like I personally don't even know what that entails. Can you tell everybody a little bit about what happens in the flap? I think there's a specific name for it. See how green I am at it. I just had a double mastectomy, no reconstruction. So I'm like, it's a flap. It's like a D flap or something flap. So tell us all about it. Yeah, tell us all about like what does that procedure entail?
It's it's a long procedure. You're basically cut from hip to hip, and they take fat and skin from your stomach and rebuild your breast is what they do. But in addition to that, I also had implants put in because I wasn't happy with that procedure alone. But you're literally at a 45-degree angle, and I used a walker for probably a month because you can't stand up because they've taken the skin, so you're leaning over and your skin has to stretch back in order for you to pull yourself straight back up again. So it's a pretty complicated procedure. Like I said, I was in surgery for 10 to 12 hours, from start to finish, from the initial surgery to the reconstruction to the flap and all that. So it's hard. I'm not gonna.
It sounds very, yeah.
It was hard.
And
I think the flap was harder than probably just the mastectomy.
yeah.
But
Well, I can tell you that just the mastectomy, it was one surgery, 6 weeks, and I was practically back to the new normal or whatever. So yeah, that's a lot. You said a year and a half and 8 different procedures.
yes,
Total.
yes.
Yeah, that's a lot. But yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
So, they did find the cancer had spread to a couple of the lymph nodes. Luckily, not beyond kind of where the tumor was itself. So, we did all the procedures. Everything was looking good. We thought, okay, we got it. It was stage 1B. It was ER positive. So they're going to put me on tamoxifen. All this is going to be good. Well, unfortunately, the oncologist I had at the time called me after, they do the pathology report and said, well, everything looks good. Unfortunately, your oncotype, which is kind of statistically where you are in a reoccurrence of cancer, is extremely aggressive or extremely high. So we want you to do 6 months of chemotherapy just to make sure we got it all.
So how do they get the onc type that you mentioned? Is that like a blood test that they do?
No, they take the tumor and they send it off to the pathologist, and then they do whatever they do and it comes back. It's a statistics. I'm sure I'm butchering the right definition, but it basically comes back and says what your prognosis of having a reoccurrence will be. And even though I was stage 1B, it came back highly aggressive or highly probable that the cancer will come back somewhere.
Wow, that's super scary.
So that's kind of to your point where I had deviated a little bit from, kind of the norm. And, from all the survivors that I've talked to, the one thing we have in common is we have breast cancer, but how we found it, how we go about it, and how we take this, I don't want to say journey, because as Jennifer says, it wasn't a journey because it wasn't fun. Journeys are supposed to be fun, right? How we, deal with our ongoing progress is where I deviated a little bit. So I decided, with much prayer and much research and the support of family and friends, not to do chemo. And it was hard because when you have a doctor telling you you're going to die if you don't do it, you may not die now, but you're going to die later if you don't do chemo because of your oncotype. It was a lot of trust and faith and a lot of trust in myself. And we decided not to do chemo. So, I think it was the right decision. I'm 4.5 years on now. But basically, I found a doctor. He's a wellness doctor in Heath. He's a DO as well. I found a great acupuncturist. I found a great dietitian, and I just kind of went the path of health and faith and whatever else you would come up with, not to do chemo. And that's the route I've taken and still take today.
Yeah, that's a really impressive leap of faith, you know? And like you said, you did that in prayer. You made that decision based on, everything that you felt like. There's something to be said about, your gut instinct, and we all have that. And sometimes you just you have to go with that, and know that whatever, you have to feel good with your choice in the end. And it sounds like, that's what you did, is even with that prognosis that he gave you, or was thinking could be possible. You said, let me think about this and figure out what I want to do. Now, prior to him saying that, were they planning for you to have chemo anyway? I mean, because it feels like not everybody. For example, Lori Peters, who's been at our drumathon the last 2 years, she didn't have chemo, but it feels like most people have chemo. Like, it seems like a lot of times when we're chatting in our survivor group, that it's like everybody's had the same chemo. Oh yeah, Adriamycin, Cytoxan, Taxol. It's like everybody's had it, and then there's a couple where have carboplatin with it, and then they follow up with tamoxifen and all this stuff. But were they wanting to do chemo for you from the beginning, or was it only when they saw that high likelihood of recurrence that they suggested it?
It was after that, because I was stage 1B. And in fact, the breast surgeon, before, we actually had the surgery, she's like, we'll do the double mastectomy and it'll be, you'll be fine. Because I had no pre-existing condition. I was in good health. I was a good weight. I kind of, the doctor who was doing the pre-certification for the surgery said, you're the healthiest cancer patient we've seen. So it's, there wasn't, like I said, I didn't check any of the boxes. So there was really no precursor to like, yes, you're going to do chemo, because it was ER positive. And they put me on tamoxifen, which I took, and I took that for about 2 years, and it threw me into menopause. So, once we kind of got those estrogen levels down, then we flipped over, and I can't recall the medicine they flipped me over to, but it was causing me severe joint pains. It was causing me arthritis. I couldn't walk up the stairs. And so I ended up getting off that. So right now I'm taking nothing but vitamins and supplements and eating right and exercise. So it's, it's been a crazy ride, but to your point, trust your instincts, trust your gut, but do your homework. I mean, and I had a very supporting spouse who was by my side the entire time. My family was by my side. And I think because I had an incredible support staff or support system, that made all the difference in the world. Because had that not been there, I don't know if I could have walked this path alone.
Yeah, that's definitely. I mean, it's a scary choice to make. You mentioned earlier that you had been tested, had the genetic testing done early on in your life. Have you had it done more recently, or?
We did. Well, my sister didn't, but I did. When we started this whole process, once again, it came back negative. And she said, her response was, well, they just haven't found the gene that created your breast cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the thing is now I know, I don't remember when I had the genetic testing last, and I keep throwing out this number, and it could be off by a few, like 10 or something. But I believe there was around 25 different genes that they've traced back to breast cancer. And, I believe the more recent ones that they found have a lower percentage of, breast cancer recurrence, but they've been able to track it back. And I'm in the same boat as you, because I had a lot of breast cancer or not breast cancer, but cancer in general on my dad's side. And so that we feel that it is a hereditary thing. And so it's likely some gene out there that they haven't found yet. And so do you still have follow-up visits with your oncologist at all? Do you have any kind of checks that they're doing regularly for you at this time?
Well, they don't do scans. Because there's really nothing to scan anymore. We were doing before COVID, right before COVID, I was doing the blood work. I was doing it every 3 months, and then it went to every 6 months right before COVID. And my numbers always have come back clear. So I'm due again. So really, we just do blood work. The only thing I've done in addition to all this is last year, and they don't know if it was due to tamoxifen or my history of cancer, but they found some spots on my uterus during, I was having weird women issues and symptoms and stuff. So they went ahead and did some tests and decided that I needed to have a full hysterectomy. So they've pretty much taken everything. They've taken my breast, my uterus, my cervix, my ovaries. I'm pretty much done with all that.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So it's that was last year. So I was in the menopause because of tamoxifen, but
Right.
obviously the full hysterectomy completely changed. And now I'm in a different stage of life. But I'm healthy. I feel great. I have the COVID-15 right now going on, but it's if that's a sacrifice I have to make to be here and to be here for my kids and my husband and my family and friends, then I will make that sacrifice again. I don't regret anything. I wish I didn't have to walk this path, but I am, and I have. And if I can make a difference in someone else's life because of the path I had to walk, like I said, I'm not going to call it a journey because, as Jennifer says, journeys are fun. Then that's what I'm here to do.
That's very cool. Yeah, and I want to make sure and call out that several people have made a few comments out in the chat room over here. And Jennifer is putting an exclamation point on that. Exactly, sister, not a journey. Dee Dee says, amen. My aunt chose not to do chemo either. She also went by faith. Mandy says, wow, that's very scary. And Jennifer says, your faith is very inspiring. Mandy says you're very brave. And I think you were trying to remember the next medication they put you on after tamoxifen. And Jennifer says letrozole or letrozole or something like that. Would that be it?
It was in that family. It causes severe joint. I mean, there's a lot of side effects. And I know that, my oncologist, her name is Dr. Cripps. She's here in Dallas. She's fantastic. And I'm going to deviate a little bit. I will say, if anybody going through it right now, find an oncologist that you're happy with, you're comfortable with, that you can really just lay your heart out with, because that is critical. I mean, your surgeon is done, whatever doctors you've had, but your oncologist is critical to have that relationship with. And I know, April, you've got an amazing relationship with your oncologist.
Yes, very blessed.
Oncologist to find that I really connected with, and especially the path I chose. So Dr. Cripps in Dallas, she's at Medical City, is fantastic. And my acupuncturist is wonderful. I see her every 2 weeks, and just to kind of keep me level and all that. And I still do the blood work, but find a doctor that you really connect with, because that is so important, because they have your life in their hands. I mean, you have to be in agreement with the path you take with them.
Well, and the fact that you kind of went the full body health route, I guess you would say, I think that's so important for people to hear, because whether you are a breast cancer survivor or not, that healthy lifestyle that you have chosen can really make a big difference in your life and in the future years in your life, as you get older. And so I think you're super inspiring in that regard with how you take care of yourself. And the Orange Theory, we'll say them again because they rock, Orange Theory, and everything that you do. And I'm curious, so you do the acupuncture, you work out frequently. How often do you think you work out right now? Is it like an hour each time?
I do 3 days a week of Orange Theory, which is, for those of us who've done it, it's cardio. It's hard cardio for an hour. So at least 3 days a week. And then the days I don't do hard cardio, I at least try to walk the dog, or just stay active. I mean, it's easy to, especially nowadays when it's really hard to get out and about, or you have to be a lot more cautious about where you go and what you do. Just stay active. And if it's a treadmill or a walk to the park or a walk down the street, I mean, I know that your oncologist is very supportive of exercise.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Facts and statistics. Just stay active. Just keep your heart rate up, for, exercise 30 minutes a day, whatever that is, walking up and down your stairs. But it's, I think it's very important to keep active, especially as you age, with your bones and your heart. And, it's what we have to do,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
no, I think it's super smart. And like I said, you're really inspiring in that regard for sure. And so tell me a little bit about how you eat. Do you have like I have this like kind of like rule book I walk around with and I apply those rules to any meal. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna order a turkey burger and no cheese and I'm gonna have ketchup instead of mayonnaise. And you know, like I have like my own little set of rules that I use. I'm not saying that they're great or wonderful or the cure all for everything. They work for me. And I'm just curious, like
Right.
what kind of dietary path do you follow?
Well, I would say I wish I could say I was 100%, dedicated every day. Especially in the beginning, I was very dedicated. I did the whole Candina diet. You just because Dr. Ganina, who was my wellness doctor, and he did blood work, and he was very adamant about no dairy, no red meat, no soy. Um, no alcohol, etc. So it was, I guess it's changed over the course of 4 years. And I wish I could say, as I said, I'm good at it every day, not every day, but I am conscious of, okay, if I eat a steak, then I have to make, sacrifices later. Or if I'm going to have a piece of cheese, I have to make sacrifices later. So I wouldn't say I follow a specific diet. It's just really more of an awareness of the consequences if I eat this or not that, if I drink this or not that, then how do I modify to manage everything? Because you can go extreme one way or the other, and I was probably really extreme in the beginning, not so much now, but at least I'm aware. It's an education of how food and alcohol and intake of water and all that affects your body. And I'm not saying that's the answer, but it's certainly something that I'm much more aware of today than I was prior to all this happening.
Yeah, no doubt. And water is a really important piece to it as well. Drinking a lot of water. I remember when I went through chemo, that was a really important thing. But just any day of the week, drinking a lot of water is good. And of course, you mentioned alcohol intake and stuff like that. And Dr. O'Shaughnessy talks about how limiting your alcohol intake, to like I think she said 3 a week or something like that. And
Right.
and just spreading it out, not all at once kind of thing, and that helping lower your risk of breast cancer and whatnot. And when you're talking about how you eat, it's like for me, I'm the same way. I'm not on a diet like a specific diet. I call it my eating lifestyle, and I base it on tips that Dr. O'Shaughnessy has given me with regard to helping lower my risk of breast cancer. And man, I got to get back. I haven't been playing that much this year, and so I'm like telling somebody the other day, I'm like, I'm losing tone in my arms. I used to have
Yeah.
muscle in my arms, and I'm losing tone. So today I'm down there. I'm doing these weights today on my lunch break, and I'm like, I got this. Got to get back in the game big time, man. So that's really cool. I've got a few more people who've commented here, Kristina, that I want to be sure and give a shout out to. So Gail says she is still by your side. I'm assuming Gail is a family member, probably her friend.
Yeah. She's
Uh,
my aunt. Yeah.
oh, awesome. Aunt Gail in the house. What's up, Aunt Gail? And Mandy says you had to have a very strong attitude too. I think having such a positive attitude is so very important. Good call, Mandy. Dee Dee says, wow, Kristina, you are so strong. Continue to keep the faith. That is the reason why you're still living. And she did the prayer sign and high fives and everything. And then Mandy agrees with that and says, Kristina is amazing. Tina says, you're amazing. And Michelle Nichols says, love you, Kristina. So you got a lot of love out there, girl. And I want to thank everybody for joining, and it looks like you had a lot of love in the house, and I really appreciate you sharing your story because it is so important to talk about all the different paths that each breast cancer survivor chooses during their we need to come up with another word for it, like I don't even know what, but something that fits better than journey, like you said, something like a battle or war zone, or I don't know what. But when you get ready to go to war with breast cancer, picking your path and determining what is best for you. And it's just like I said earlier, it's like you have to live with whatever the decision is, so you have to feel 100% confident in it. And so the fact that's your leap of faith that you took is really an amazing story. And I hope you'll come back and give us a progress update on how you're doing, and sometime soon, and check in and keep us posted.
Well, I'm right there with you because I'm in your background helping things out, so I'm not going very far. But I would just say too, for the survivors or the ladies who are just starting this journey, I know for women, wives, mothers, whatever, it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to be humbled because you are extremely humbled in this process, especially in the beginning when you've had the surgeries or you've had the chemo and you can't do what you used to do. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, I don't feel good today. Can you go get milk or bread for my kids? Can you pick my kids up at school? Because it's hard. It was so hard for me to say, I don't want your meal. I was one, like you said, I have cancer. Let's do something about it. I was very vocal about it, much to probably some people's irritation. But I posted out on Facebook in my local moms group, oh my God, I have breast cancer. What now? And I have met some amazing women through that process.
Totally.
But because of that, I had 30 days of food brought to my house. Some of them were strangers. Some were my amazing family and friends, but some were total strangers. And I'm just, for those of you who are new in this walk, it's okay to ask for help, because as women, we're not used to that. We don't like to ask for help. Do it. And you're going to be humbled. And when you can't take a shower by yourself or go to the bathroom by yourself or do things, it's so hard. Just accept it and praise that you have people there to help you. And it's, it'll turn around. It'll be your turn to help someone. So I'm just saying, it's okay to accept it, because I know there's a couple people, and I hope that are on here that I've talked to, and that in the very beginning, you're trying to be stoic and be the strong person. And it's okay just to say, you know what, God, you've got this. I've got support, and thank you. Just thank you. That's all you can do is say thank you. And that's all people want sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
that's solid advice, man. Very solid advice. And to your point, those of you watching, if you miss it, Kristina is also an amazing volunteer for Breast Cancer Can Stick It. And she helps with stuff all the time. She helps run our survivors group, Survivors Rock, a Breast Cancer Can Stick It community. It's down there pinned in the chat here. So be sure, if you are a breast cancer survivor, that you join in the conversation over there. And I love your passion for this fight against breast cancer and your willingness to share your story to help others. I think that is so important. So thank you so much, girl, for joining the broadcast tonight. I really appreciate you being here. And we're going to get ready now for Christy Johnson coming up next. Kristina, awesome. You take care. I will see you over on Survivors Rock, a Breast Cancer Can Stick It community, girl. Take care, all right?
Bye.
See you, bye, guys. All right, that was Kristina, everybody. I'm going to play you guys a quick little thing from Dr. Joyce O'Shaughnessy while we get...